It is going to be another beach glass ring today, and this piece actually was found on the beach in Aruba. I was commissioned to cut a radiant cut, which is a rectangular cut, and I've done this cut before for a prior beach glass ring. Now, this beach glass is a really nice green hue, where the previous ones that I've cut actually had a really deep blue or a nice light blue, so this is going to be a nice little change up. I'm excited to get into this. Now I'm going to be starting with the preform, and I'm going to be using a, I believe, 360 grit I should start with. We're going to remove a bulk of the material here, and I'm going to get this dopped up and ready to start the bottom half cutting of the stone. You see the depth of the stone comparative to the length and width. So what I need to do is I need to actually cut this down so that we have enough depth, and that means that this shape is actually going to be a pretty good preform for me to dop. The dop stick that you select is pretty important as you're trying to maximize the amount of surface area that the brass attachment is making contact with for your gemstone, in this case piece of glass. And I think they actually call them emerald dops because typically these are used for emerald cuts. You always want to add a little bit of force to the stone before you set it in the machine. And that's just a quick test to see how good of a connection you got. The Cole Fine shirts, they're on my website. And I'm actually wearing the white. And I think that I've decided the white is actually my favorite. I feel like the Starship logo on the back is just extra crisp. Alright, so I just got this pre-formed in on my 320 grit lap, and I'm going to be moving on to my 600 grit. Now, I didn't actually hit every single facet. The idea is to form the Q-lip, which is the actual point of the stone, remove the bulk of the material, and now the idea is to actually shave off the skin. Essentially is the name of what you would call this, or a term you would use. It's an extremely scratched surface to quickly remove the material. Now, I had a pretty decent sized piece of glass to start, and I actually had to remove the biggest portion of it because, again, the height of this stone required majority of the material to be removed so that I actually have enough space to form the Q-lip and the crown, and it looks like we're just going to get it now. It's pretty important that we get the right dimensions for the gem diagram. So what I need to do is I measure the width, which is 6.08, and then I'm actually going to punch that into a calculator, multiply that by 1.5, and that's going to give us 9.12. Okay, so once I actually get down to the 1500 grit, this is where I actually want to shape everything in properly, make sure all the meet points are exactly where they need to be for each row of facets, and get this shaped in essentially as perfectly as it can be done. So this is going to be the stage where accuracy is everything, where the prior two stages I'm basically just roughing the stone in, getting the generalized shape of it, getting the facets in. I'm not too concerned about the meet points being perfect because this is the stage where we're going to be able to make sure everything is sharp and crisp. Okay, just doing a check over of the pavilion here. And this is going to be before I actually polish the girdle. I got the pavilion polished up, and if I do that, do we get this in shot? We do. Excellent. So now I have the pavilion in the gem transfer here, and what I'm going to be doing is finding a dop. So the thing about dops is you never can have too many. I own about 50 different dops, and you'd be amazed that the exact size you want may not always be present. Alright, so just moving along here, just jumped onto the 1500 grit, and we're going to be doing the remaining cuts on the crown here, and it's going really well. I have now formed in the gem. It's really cool to see kind of how this glass always turns out, looking very similar to certain gemstones, making sure that everything's good to go, and it looks like it is. So I'm going to move on to cutting the table now, and I'm just going to throw on my table adapter, and this is my favorite part because this is the last facet that needs to be cut.